this is the perfect time. It's the perfect time to get started with a carnivore diet, or restart the carnivore diet if you've had a little bit of a fall off the wagon. And one of the reasons it's the best time to go is January is World Carnivore Month, so you won't be doing this alone. And in this video, I want to give you 10 steps to follow to ensure your success on the carnivore diet. Although number 9 is likely impossible. Just before we get started, a little bit about myself. My name is Dave, and I've been on the carnivore diet for 18 months now, and I've seen a lot of improvements. So many improvements, in fact, that I'm probably going to forget some of them. But some of the things that I can remember off the top of my head, of course, are weight loss. I've lost about 34 pounds. I've cleared up gum disease, sensitive gums, bleeding gums, bad breath, all of the associated issues with gum disease. I have got rid of my arthritis. I had terrible arthritis in my left knee. That is now gone. Some stroke symptoms that I had from a stroke that I suffered at the age of 17, totally unrelated to this diet. It was a congenital issue. I have seen massive improvements on those stroke symptoms. Those include improvement in my gait, where I was limping before. I'm not limping as much anymore. I have more strength on my right side, which was always the weaker side following the stroke, things like that. And remember, this is over 30 years after the stroke happened, I've seen these improvements. So some other things that have improved for me: my energy's up, my sleep is better, I get better sleep even when I'm sleeping less hours. I'm more focused and I have better concentration. I'm ready to go. And the other thing is, I put on muscle much easier than I ever have in my life. I'm nearly 50 years old, and I put on muscle much better than I ever did when I was in my teens or early 20s. Now, that's just a little bit about me and an idea of some of the things that could improve for you on the carnivore diet. Now, what I will say is, eating-wise, I eat 1 to 2 meals a day at the moment, and I eat only meat and eggs. I don't eat anything else. I was eating cheese as well for about the first 6 to 8 months of doing carnivore, but I then gave that up, and since then it's only been beef, eggs, salt, water, and coffee. All right. As I say, I eat 1 to 2 meals a day. Typically, I will eat at 7 o'clock in the morning, and I won't eat again, or I'll eat at 7 o'clock in the morning and then maybe have another meal around 6 p.m. So the hardest point about carnivore is the first few weeks or the first month. It's when you're going to be feeling down. It's when you're probably going to feel a bit low energy as your body's kind of changing. And it's also the time that you're going to be most tempted when you see someone eating some kind of regular snack that you would have had ordinarily on your standard diet. So I'm going to give you 10 steps that you can follow to help you stay the course during that initial really tough period. Number 1 is feast. Don't skimp on what you're eating. All through your life, when you've been thinking about losing weight or dieting, it's always been about reducing your intake of food, reducing your volume of food. When you go carnivore, you shouldn't be thinking of food like that. You shouldn't be thinking of things like calories or numbers or anything like that. What you should be thinking about is eating to satiety. And one of the things that's going to help you most when you first get started is being satiated. So when you get started with carnivore, don't feel like you need to be controlling your portion sizes. As long as you're eating the right foods, go wild. Eat until you feel full. Eat until you feel, as Dr. Berry would say, comfortably stuffed. If you're eating only red meat, or you're eating only animal-based products like eggs and fish and things like that, eat as much as you need, as often as you need to stay satiated. If you notice a craving coming on, focus on eating more animal-based products. At your next meal, add more animal products in, or eat something right now. Go and cook up some eggs right now. Go and cook up some bacon. Do something. focus on just keeping yourself satiated. Feast, not famine. Step number 2, related to the first point, is keep snacks around. Make sure that you've always got a supply of things that you can nibble on if you do get a craving. So have bacon sitting in the fridge pre-prepared. Have boiled eggs ready to go in the fridge just in case you get a little bit hungry. Also, what I find that really helps is to heavily salt the food. Now, if you're eating something like, a pink Himalayan salt or Redmond's real salt, go wild. All right. Table salt is probably not the best thing for you. It's probably got chemicals and that kind of thing in there. So make sure you're eating a good quality salt. Another one I've heard of is one called Malden's, and you can get these from Amazon. Then as long as you're eating a good quality salt, go wild with salting your food, salt to taste, and that's also going to help you stay satiated. So make sure you've got those carnivore friendly snacks available, your bacons, your boiled eggs, things like that, and feel free to salt to taste, and that's going to keep you satiated. Step number 3, and this is something that's obvious but also not so obvious for people, and that is to keep it simple. The thing that's really important is to make sure that you are not eating any of the wrong foods, any of the foods that contain carbohydrate. Try and focus on whole foods only. Just focus on one ingredient foods, and focus on one ingredient foods that come from an animal. If it's in a vacuum sealed container and it's got a whole load of ingredients, it's probably not the best thing for you because it's going to have preservatives and all sorts of things in there. So focus, keep it simple, and then it's going to be most easy to stick to. When you go to the supermarket, 99.9% of the time, you're going to be able to stay in the perimeter of the supermarket. You won't have any reason to go into the middle of the supermarket unless you're shopping for other members of the family. Step number 4, and this is from personal experience, I found this probably one of the most helpful things, was to avoid socializing for the first month or so. And what I think is important is when you've got close friends that often invite you out or invite you around to their place or something like that, it's really important to give them a heads up. You don't have to go into details about, I'm doing the carnivore diet, and so can you not, just please don't invite me around for a while or something like that, right? But it's important to avoid the little temptations. So you don't want to be going out with your friends for that first month or so and being put into situations where, you see everyone else drinking beer or drinking wine or eating cake or whatever it happens to be. You don't want to be in that situation. You want to avoid that temptation. But what you also want to avoid is you want to avoid them asking you. Because when they ask you, you've got two problems. You've got the temptation of thinking, building this picture in your mind about what's going to happen when you're there. Oh, there's going to be wine and cake and beer, and that's an interesting combination, right? But there's going to be all these things. And so you will be kind of building that picture in your mind and getting more tempted to go. But additionally, you've got that kind of social pressure of, well, my friend's asking me, they've gone out of their way to ask me to go, and so I should go. So what I would do is the close friends you've got that would tend to invite you out often, I would contact them and I would say, look, for the next month, I'm going to be looking after some health issues. You don't have to go into details about the diet, taking care of some health issues. So I need to avoid particular triggers like alcohol and stuff like that. So do me a favor, and just be upfront, just say, I can be easily tempted with things. So for the next month, please, stay in contact, but avoid inviting me out or talking about parties or anything like that. And, once I'm past this little phase in a month's time, I'll let you know, look, from now on, please invite me. And just give them a heads up like that. And then they're not going to feel like there's an issue if they're inviting you all the time and you're saying no, and you're not going to feel that social pressure of like, I should say yes because I said no last time. And yeah, there's also the temptation pressures and things like that. So just give your friends a heads up. Number 5, and this is really useful in my experience, is to change up your habits. So if, for example, you normally drive home past this really nice Italian restaurant, and every time you drive past there, you kind of remember those really nice nights you've had in there with your friends or your partner and having a wine and having a pizza and things like that, then what you want to do is you want to try and drive in a different way to go home, because you want to avoid that kind of feeling, that reminiscing, that temptation, and you just want to, have a nice, clear journey home. And what you'll find is when you change your habits like that, you kind of go the long way around, or you kind of do something that's a little bit different so that you don't pass the convenience store that will tempt you with the ice cream or whatever it happens to be, or walking past the Burger King on the way to work, whatever it is, that will give you a better feeling of control, a bigger sense of self-control. And this really helps you to stay the distance on carnivore. It will help a lot. So go the long way round is the way I'd summarize this. Avoid driving past, traveling past, walking past the restaurants, the convenience stores, the fast food outlets, anywhere that's going to trigger you, anywhere that's going to give you a feeling where, I really want to have this, I really want to do this, right? Go the long way around. You'll get a better sense of self-control. You'll get a feeling of self-control that'll give you more of a feeling of accomplishment, and you're more likely to stay the course. Step number 6 is don't give specifics to people. When you give specifics to people, you give them an opportunity to talk you out of doing carnivore. So put yourself in this position, right? You're feeling good. You've been on carnivore for a couple of days. You go into the office and someone says, well, you're looking like you've got a lot more energy today. You're looking happier than normal. What's up? You say, oh, I've been doing this fantastic new diet. All I do is eat meat. And your colleague says, oh, I've heard of that. That's the carnivore diet. My friend tried to do that. They couldn't do it. They lasted about a week and they were out. They found that they were tired all the time. They had this kind of keto flu thing. They were feeling awful. They had diarrhea. It was just a nightmare. They had diarrhea coming out their ears. It was a nightmare. And what they're doing now is they're relating a story to you, but they are giving you reasons to stop. They are giving you a way to think, maybe I shouldn't do this. Maybe this is not the right thing for me. Yeah, I was feeling a little bit rough the other night. Maybe this is related. Maybe I should just give up, right? Don't tell other people specifics. Wait until you're a month or 2 into this way of eating before you start telling people about the specifics, because then you'll be much stronger, you'll have much more self-control, you won't be tempted anymore. And so when people start saying like, oh yeah, my friend only lasted a week, they couldn't do it, they had so many problems, you're going to be able to just say, yeah, I had those too, but I just stuck it out and I feel fine now. So it's all good. Number 7 is when you have to decline something, whether it's when you're ordering in a restaurant, whatever it happens to be. The more you have to say, don't give me this, and don't give me this, and don't give me this, and don't give me this, the harder it is, and the more pressure you're putting on yourself, and the more people are looking at you like, what's wrong with you? You never used to be like this. You know the situation, right? You say you're stopping alcohol for a month, and you're out with friends, and your friends say, have a glass of wine, and you'll say, oh, look, I'm not drinking at the moment, but there's that social pressure. And sometimes you will have a friend who will just say, oh, come on, just have a little bit's not going to hurt. And you feel tempted and you drink, right? If you just keep it simple and you just say, I have allergies, I can't drink, I can't eat that at the moment, just feed me steak, just feed me eggs. It's much simpler, no pressure, and when you've said allergies, people will leave you alone. And if they still won't leave you alone after you've said allergies and they're pushing you and they're saying, well, what kind of allergies? What happens to you? Just say, chronic diarrhea, and then they'll leave you alone. Number 8 is to keep a record of how you're feeling. Keep a record of how you're feeling every morning. Write down how you're feeling before you start carnivore and once you get started. Because when you're keeping a record of how you feel and you start to notice day to day, you're feeling better and better and better and better, it's so much easier to stick to carnivore. So the day before you start carnivore, if you write down how you're feeling when you first wake up, back pain, knee pain, didn't sleep well, woke up 15 times last night, feel like I have no energy, I can't get up, all of these kind of things. After noting all these issues, then doing your first day of carnivore and waking up the next day and writing down how you feel and writing down things like slept better, didn't wake up, have more energy, back pain feels a little bit better, things like that. After one day, then you are going to be much more motivated to keep going. You're going to have much more self-control so that when sometime during the next day, when that temptation comes up of a glass of wine or a glass of beer or a donut or whatever it happens to be, bowl of pasta, you're going to be able to say, you know what? No, because I want to wake up feeling good or perhaps even better tomorrow morning. Number 9. Now, this one is often impossible for people, and it's something that's vital when you're first getting started on carnivore because it can help to build your self-control and it can help to keep you on track. But most people find this impossible because it kind of goes counter to the way we would normally think about dieting. And number 9 is don't focus on the long term. Don't focus on, 6 months down the track and, I'm going to be able to fit into this size 8 dress again. Or don't focus on the future about, what it's going to look like when I've got all this muscle and things like that. Just focus on the day to day. Just focus on getting through day 1. Just focus on getting through day 1 and getting into bed that night without having cheated. Just focus then on day 2, focus on getting through day 2 and getting into bed without cheating. And what's going to happen is day 1, you focus on getting to bed, right? So you get to bed that night, you might feel that little bit of a hole in your stomach, like, I didn't eat any carbohydrate today and I feel like I don't feel hungry, but I feel weirdly sort of hungry. It's an emptiness that I don't understand because you haven't had that emptiness for basically all of your life. And so the morning you wake up on day 2, you slept better, you don't feel as much pain, you've got more energy, and you've got this amazing feeling of self-accomplishment because it's like, I did it. I got through that day without cheating. And that starts to build this self-control. Like there's this little grain of self-control that gets dropped, and then day 2 goes the same, and so you wake up on day 3 and again you're feeling better, you have that sense of accomplishment and that self-control. You've got another little grain of, let's say, rice in this case, a grain of rice. It's a little bit strange to be talking about grains and rice in a carnivore video, but it's building up that little pyramid of grains of rice of self-control, so that you've got this over a period of a week to 2 weeks. You've got this, you're just building your self-control because you can feel like, I'm feeling better, and you're just focusing on the right now. You're just focusing on every day. I don't have to worry about whether I cheat tomorrow or not. I don't have to think about in 6 months how am I going to still be doing this. You just need to focus on, I've got to get to the end of today. I've got to not cheat while I'm eating lunch. I've just got to not have a snack between lunch and dinner, that kind of thing. And your self-control is going to be built up so much within a week to 2 weeks. It's going to be unbelievable, and that's going to help you stay the course. It's really difficult for most people to do, but if you can do this, you will stay the distance. And number 10, and this is super important, don't beat yourself up if you fall off the wagon. We all make mistakes. I've been trying to stick to a keto approach to eating for 23 years, and it's only in the last 18 months I've actually been able to do it. We all fall off the wagon. And it's for varying amounts of time. It could be for a day, it could be for 6 months, whatever it happens to be. But the important thing is, when you fall off the wagon, you go out with friends, or you just have a moment where you eat some ice cream and it's like, I don't know why I did that and I feel awful. But don't start punching yourself. Don't start saying you're a terrible human because you did this. Just say, okay, I made a mistake. I realize how bad I feel. I feel awful, whether that's mentally or physically or both. I feel awful now that I've eaten that sugar after not having sugar for a week or whatever. Don't beat yourself up, just acknowledge it and just get straight back on the wagon. The more you beat yourself up, the more you go, woe is me, this is awful, then the likelihood is you're not going to get back on the wagon at all. You're just going to continue in this kind of downward spiral and go, oh, I've made a mistake and I'm a fool and I'm a bad human. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go out and drink 3 gallons of beer or something. I'm going to go crazy. So don't beat yourself up. Acknowledge that wasn't the best thing I could have done and get straight back on the wagon. And when you get straight back on the wagon, your likelihood of success is much, much, much higher than if you beat yourself up. And if you want to see the lengths they'll go to keep low carb and carnivore information from you, check out this video next.